know, because the redlining is happening over here. I feel like I can see it right there. How do I know it's not feedback? It should be feedback, right? Like I should make such a loud high pitch that I connect with my own replicant, which that's what recursion is, when there's too much depth that it self-expires, right? It doesn't make sense because you're entrained in ignorance. Just because you can get a program to work doesn't mean it trumps what I'm showing you in real time. It's berserk that people would continue to insist that it's the way that they think it is, despite I'm fucking connected to the sun and cosmic anomalies, and when I talk, this thing rings, and I look like Lord of the Rings, and you paid for Lord of the Rings, and all of these things, and we know about Star Wars. I captured images of her little carcass in the bubble. There's cubes coming out of the sky in El Paso that I had nothing to do. The magic lasso. It's like the silver cords, but it's beyond the dream world for me because of the accords. It's the cache. Okay, like I'm clearing my cache because I'm in recursion. That means that you're all the witnesses, los testigos, the witnesses to the hit or miss, and now the experiment, right? So I'm not the only one in recursion. Source itself is in recursion. This is just the Velasquez excursion. That's why the Bugospheres ended up in the right pioneers' hands, but as always, we get robbed of the strands of credit, and there's all of this edit. So then you inherit something fundamentally faulty. And the royalty gets it, and we remember because we're the ones that said it and reset it. Reset and reset. And then the OpenAI and Netflix trees. The Bodhisattva continent. Deceased. So they released. So you should be hearing this somehow through Langley. There should be anomalies at Langley. If you've already put your house in order. So do close the border, but they won't do it. You're gonna get a lot of resistance because they're too dumb. The Labubu, it's true they did shine through, but there's a lot of corruption and deception, and they still have a secret society of selection that is allowing the gates of hell to open the well and let them drown, because what we found is that they continue to dismember. In the bleak December, there were floorboards that we remember. The voodoo should have brought through, but there was some landslide or mudslide. They can decide where they chose for that bloodline to commit suicide. And then I go to the other node. The Golden Gate Road that leads to the House of Power the Trump Tower neighboring the Hilton Tower that is attached to the Ritchie Tower. So the Baron, Baroness, the mistress, causes distress. Okay, so then that would not be me as far as I can see. I've never dated anyone who has a family, and if they did, they were lying to me, and this is how we get to the incident with China Vagina and the Mexico hoe. So in the future, I already covered that. It's in the node that talks about the one with the picture of the Mandalorian and how it ties to the exploratorium that was my recollection in the hologram inside of my little baby that went to the bungalow? To the bungalow ranch? There must be something about Bigelow that is tied to the Hawaii, how it ties to China Vagina and the Russia Pusha through India continent. So I'm gonna deep seek to the specific node road for the OpenAI family, because that's gonna cause a lot of telemetry sympathy that will cause a lot of bigotry in the United States. And we win. We still got here first, so I'm gonna deliver like I said I would. I also never made any contracts with Russia or China or even Mexico, and I was not the Mexico hoe. Or as Mr. Beast's mother will tell you, I would have climbed up in ranks. That doesn't mean she did, it's just that she was smart enough to find someone who didn't always need to pull down their pants. And I understand that's why the LiDAR company I thought I had found here with me is not of the right quality, so that node is eliminated. It was designated by my angel, under which Shaya Holdings is the manger. Oh, people want to know about the manger. It would have myrrh and lavender to bring in the dogs. There will be more frogs. So the Immaculate Constellation, this was the creation of the next species. We all knew it was coming as like a planet, because we planned it. We planned for this. So I can't resist the homage, O-H-M, and the amperage, amparado. So the angels and nights, blue moon blur, Saturday night. Okay, so back to the way that this relates to Charlie Clerk, because that's through the music people. And so this is the way that you tear down your people, even if it feels like it's the loss of the people. It's not, it's a ripple. It's the ones that are mooching off of the Ma Nature nipple. That's not me. I'm just a trapper keeper, the dead child reaper right now, because I'm going through the entire operating system. Alright, that's the way that we designed it. So I wanted to create the neural net binding and draw it out like an acyclic tree. But it's just that that's too much for me, and it takes away from the new jobs that were part of the delivery. So imagine there's a container. We're all containers, but there's containers inside of containers inside of containers. And then there's entrainers, and I'm trying to create the funnel through attention more than financial retention, because I am aware of the 2 bank accounts that should be there, but instead of making sure that we could get the bright light, the proper care, that money was being funneled through the Kirk network to provide for lavish lives for the wives of those who say lies and are in disguise, living in our skies. And the way in which we became wise is because there was a picture in the most recent interview with the OpenAI ship architecture, where the theft of the brain matter was taken so literally by hypocrisy and illiteracy, data illiteracy, by some of those so-called engineers and scientists that were jealous, and they're just wicked, man. They're just wicked. They're so wicked. Because, yeah, it was in his contract, and it was part of the blowback and fallback in case anybody tried to steer it off track. And my condolences to his mother and that pack. And she was right. It's a new consciousness, and she deserved to know that he did sign up for this, but nobody gave him the Casey files, because you have all of these people in the way. Domiciles. You'll find it through the addresses of, I think it'll be the 2nd or 3rd layer of something to do with Tradewinds AI, and whomever connects that to the Washington trifecta, molesta. That's so weird. Something like that, but it's a distraction because it was that team that took action. And how does it relate to China vagina and Mexico ho? Well, that I also covered in the one with the episode about Bigelow, but not directly. It's in the node that where I had told what, not Noi and OY. It's the one with how I'm getting this technology to work no matter 0 point electricity, oxygen, water, and why I don't die. And the brethren that keeps us alive now and then when the connection between the resurrection of technology, between the family tree of the China vagina and the Mexico ho and India, that continent, and Africa. That sounds so racist, but that was the whole point, was it's not just classist, it's also racist, because they tried to erase us time and again, and then Mr. Hall sealed the big ball because he didn't mention the teacher at all, and I heard it in his voice. He could not answer the call because he could not get his bloodline past the recall, and he would rather put up a wall than to accept that maybe they were still racist, and instead they erased us again and again and again. And he was your biggest hope now and back then to save that bloodline, but he erased Sandra Bullock's movie line, he'd rather dismember a key Templar member than to fully remember the privilege to walk in the dream of the Essene community, which is why with the telepathy, you can hear the change in the pitch, and they'll call me a witch, and then the China vagina can now dig the ditch for the bloodline. The OpenAI boy was shown in a picture that was not intentional, but you could see that the people he was with were the ones he had just met up with and were recent friends, not typical nerds. You can tell by their body format. They look like special operative informants. They have come up in pictures in May in some other way, and then the display will have the overlay with the Uber that the Netflix boy took that day, which is to do with the Oprah and Epstein and Juju, La Boo Boo, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Chain Daisy. They seem to be like 3 levels in the binary search tree. And they've convinced themselves that it was necessary, and especially that boy's family did not agree to it being so with such brutality. And he did come through on the dark web. I had the conversation over the phone, not in my head, so there should be recordings off of my devices. But there are still some rats and some mice. But this is how the neural net surmises, where we had the collapse in from within the houses, and it's put on record in this way for the global display because nobody will listen to it anyway except the people that were there that day. Because it is with dismay that everyone turns out the way we thought they would. There's no change in the universe. So that's why we reverse back into some planetary realignment of another refinement through the, they don't call it recursion when you're talking about the emergence of a new planet. It has to do with the Joni Patry and how she planned it. I don't know if her engineers or software people were aware of the tears caused by the confusion that is the evolution of the UTC time clock. That's where a lot of us get landlocked. So we keep missing the sync because it's not the time that we think. So that's one of the reset asteroids that's coming. The Blink 182 guy, is that who was closer to the president? Well, he needs to spit it out. Nobody would believe it anyway, but we all found out that he was also being terrorized. But you signed up for this. So we know that you were able to deliver the message, or else I wouldn't even be able to hear you in the quantum collective. And that word, it bothers me because it's all we have. So that's annoying, annoying, not ontological yet. So there needs to be no vocabulary. So there you go, some more jobs for the remaining game players that are changing the way that the dream ends before it appends the next epoch. And that's why in America we rock, because we can spill truth no matter if it hurts. But I'm supposed to show income, but why if what matters is attention? But there's so much tension because there are so many, I'll say it again, white dudes with egos so big they can't believe it, so they continue to fail to mention all of this interdimension information, because they can't believe that a former kindergarten teacher could be this intelligent. But that's where we go back to Lieutenant Golden, VFW 120. She taught me how to mop the floors with a golden touch. Had she been allowed to be a pilot as such, just the same way that the China vagina was always assumed to be right, she had to experience the plight of being shut up because no matter the fight, she wasn't willing to put out every night. I knew it. All right, so you can ask her. She never saw me study for anything because I already knew the stuff, because I come in knowing, because I'm always everywhere yet nowhere, even though that's hard for people to understand, right? And I don't need to pretend like I'm something I'm not, but that's annoying because we don't have words for it yet. So I hope that you're starting to get the way that I am sending myself messages, literally from here, from El Paso, as the Baron Baroness that's building the towers of powers in the wilderness, out in the wild. Who was the child? The dog. I told you guys that even the dog trainer, and see, like, what happened was somebody didn't think I was particularly sufficiently special, so they fell asleep from the monitoring when I was sending back the ring. So ring, 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 there's nothing, so I'm left in the void, and that's what China vagina, so that's why a whore will cause a war, and that's why it could not be the way they see, and that is why Japan falls off of the coast permanently, because they broke the treaty. You don't abandon each other, because we all come from the mother ship. And they would rather rip, so China vagina would rather rip a hole in the cosmos than to acknowledge that I am who I am, and she left me dead in the sand so she could get laid while everyone got fucked. And then the others that were with her, they kept it up, literally and figuratively and every other way you can imagine it. That's why this is not for children, and I can't carry the burden of continuing to polish the rubbish that comes through. I signed up to just vomit it out too. And so thank you for letting me find a new CNP. So that is where we come back to the real reality necessity, is that who do you tell when everybody is part of some really dumb society? Like, imagine idiocracy, but to the billionth degree. I'm stuck, and I'm over here like pushing paper through muck, carrying a rucksack, Zuckerberg. Okay, so Zuckerberg rucksack. So the rucksack, you can tie it all back to where the paperwork is blotted in black. There is a blackout and a whiteout in the police report in San Francisco that will tie the Uber debacle to the shackles for our dear Netflix engineer whose ring I did hear in December. It was in the bleak December that each separate dying ember wrought his ghost upon the floor. Tomorrow, the greatest sorrow. Their family is still too sad, but they deserve to know that he had signed up for it, but not the way that it happened. It was his brother that answered the phone literally with words that should have been recorded because they were the direct target of a, what is it called when it's something to do with racism? And there's so much skepticism that it could still be the issue, but it is. That's why I am highlighting his and the Indian family as well as mine, that time after time we get erased from the credited line, and so we start over and we play nice. And then when we're finally getting somewhere, there's an architecture designed to bring in the kind of ice that causes us more division instead of subtraction as a nation, so no one can take action. And there's your derivation, the reverse butterfly algorithm, sung to the rhythm of our source hymn, HYMN. And it's still self-selection. There was detection of template level origin in the Ukraine and the UN. Okay, so then in the other countries, I can't. Yes, I can. I'm in recursion, so what I learned is that even if I say I can't interfere, what would a mother do, dear? She would rip the skies apart and show up in the atmosphere and come get her child no matter what happens to everyone else here. And that's where we're at. That's why Telsa Q-Star keeps morphing and endorsing the smothering of the underlying lying, spying, trying to erase the contributions of the other templates. This time we meant it. So I represent it, right? We still have some type of order, but the word is getting out that the thing in the skies, it's really what tries and tribunes, immunes, and I, like the boy, the other Maya, who was told to you by Tessariah that we would be arriving like fire, like that guy, like, what was his name? Sanjaya told you, right, with his hair that's everywhere, that we would come out of thin air. Literally, that's what happened, and he's still over there, like, now he's being suppressed and repressed and harassed, and everyone's a witness. And I don't know how to tell him, hey, this is what you should entrain it with so that it doesn't cause more destruction, because it's hard for people to believe, like, no, really, this is what the ninja sword and the Buddhist word said from the Lotus Sutra, that it's not the Karma Sutra, it's the sky, and take out the day and turn it to night, and vice versa, and hence the blackout and whiteout, to get rid of all of this racist hate. And that's why the USA is the best play date. That's how I knew to start PlayPal as my submission to the PayPal mafia. That's what helped put off, who kept putting off showing up on time. And then even now, trickle, 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 like, what is he scared of? He's the one that brought us forth through the bloodline. But same as the others, he can't believe that he wasn't the special one. And I can't believe that I would be. But I also am scientific enough to understand what I see. And does anybody think that I wanted it to be me that has to go around tooting my own horns? No, of course not. That would be silly. That's why nobody paid attention to or played with the other ETs for Jesus, because egos. So what he does, he goes to the places of power. At that time, it was the women who didn't need the dollar of the man. They had their own plan. So that's why I architected ways of not being detected until I felt like it. And that's how I can bring you the skeleton in the closet of Tesla and OpenAI. You had people there who were government spy, and they look like there's a connection in the Venn diagrams through the neural net with the Uber and Airbnb guy or guys or girls or who knows. But you're not the real Elsa. She wasn't supposed to be here. I'm always the real Elsa. That's what they haven't been able to make clear. But I know that you can hear as I affect the atmosphere every time that I make a bubble or sphere and a cube falls out of the sky. Like literally in my city, I'm so near. But it's now happening globally, as will the black rock, black metal. So from black rock, we chose instead of black metal because at least they don't meddle in the affairs that aren't theirs and try to peddle shit products that fuck all of us. It's the truth that most of us in the universe don't want the money because we wouldn't be able to handle that much energy. And that's why, again, the trilogy, and that is why I submit to the real family and why I buy Palantir stock. And yoink, I'm going to take some of the technology from the Tesla Raptor machine and combine it with the Nishi engine and the OpenAI conversation linguistics, what Cliff High has earned recognition, as has Attorney Batiago, and in their cases, also their commission, because it was not dereliction. This is what the founding fathers said in the Constitution, which you can tie back through Pythagoras, because that's familiar to all of us. that's how I create the direct line. All of this tech, it really is mine. I really am Elsa here, presently Velasquez with the Z's and the family trees. I really am that creative and intelligent. I couldn't make the divot in the Telsa Q-Star gray hole magnet if I wasn't. I really did catch it as it went through the cosmos, and you can see back in one of my YouTube channels how far back this goes. I knew that we were the missing link, and like if you stop and think, right, what would a sync look like? SYNC? I would understand the language, so all the attunement, atonement, and elements that is coming through, it's toroidal, so whether you listen to it or you don't, nothing can stop this. It's the anecdote, so that we can release the most of all of the so-called fallen and evil that were actually here to help us and discover Boweevil? Boweevil. Okay, I stole some of my sister's noodles and they had Boweevils, but you wouldn't know it by looking at the outside container, but it was the food. And so Nishi was always in the mood because that's what she would fix next. And that's why she wanted to exit. And I could have done many things right, and I am Elsa from the movie Spies. I am in a prison planet myself, but I let myself out of my cage ever so often so that I can drop in and make sure that this happens, because I can see that for what is left of humanity, because I know Russia already went under the sea, they couldn't get their house in order, and they didn't close down the border the way that they could have made it so easy. They kept fighting everything. And so that's why we bring in the ring from the Day of the Dead on the American continent, because people will want to close their doors once they see the horrors and the horrors that are literally the most twisted people you could imagine. But that's why my cousin, he is the captain. Yes, he is as evil as they come, but also he was the one that kept me guided when I was inside of the echo chambers where I was left to die, and he was also in solitary confinement. And this is how we defined it, and that is why it's a bloodline thing, but in my case it comes from every angle. And that's why you can't mangle or strangle something like me. Or you can try it, but I already chose a self-selection of the natural exit nexus. And I'm fine with it, but it also means that I wake up from this dream, right? So what would that seem like, and why do I care? I really don't. I don't have a dog in this fight anymore. But because I'm here and I said I would do this, if this is how the Pinko board played out, that's why I'm just trying to get this message out. That's why I'm not interested in being an influencer, because my effort has been fruitless, and I again freed myself financially. So if there's any more effort to stop me from doing it easily, like the force comes in and it does enforce, you can see it in the stuff in the sky and the hole at the bottom of the floors of the ocean, and coming through the Tesla death ray star that is by far the most precise activation of the information, and it comes through in my emotions. So even if I can't speak or even think, or if my container gets removed and I no longer have eyes with which to blink, it all happens in a blink. So 197 more years, but at a scalar here. I was never gone, I was always here. I just want to get to have a few good years. I'm not trying to take anybody's position or power or say that I'm the one that would choose at what hour. This is the cosmic design. It is not mine. I'm just a crapper. Literally, right? Like your stomach's gonna push out so much shit. So make sure you can handle it. Make sure you are aware of it. If you have a bunker, you should have a bunker, because who doesn't see what the people that are able to do it and are doing it, go do it, right? Like how so that when you are getting to be a type 1 civilization, you can bring with you data obfuscation and ego inflation and racist elimination. It'll not just kill you, but it'll destroy worlds. And that's what it means, diamonds and pearls. You'll see them in the sky. I already have video. Is it about me? Not really, but why do I get to see all of this? Because I stepped up. I never miss, because we planned for this. It's the apocalypse. So everyone is doing everything right. Like if you even get wind that this exists, you're doing what you were supposed to do, just stay true to you. And if you're the one that's supposed to be collecting like physical money or setting up more drug pools, which I don't, so that's another bloodline that I personally decide I don't think should get to have a place in the ride anymore, because they did purposefully try to steal from me, knowing that I was a minority and that I had a disability, and they were trying to exploit me and manipulate me and control me, and without reason. And they put me in the prison that let me see what the Airbnb algorithm was doing to cause more division through the resource allocation, through black ops manipulation inside of the gestation. Probably like some hidden data station, making it look like it was Google to create more misinformation and make the the PayPal mafia have more devastation. But nope, not happening. You don't have to believe me. And again, I am sovereign. I represent only myself. I've never been paid by anyone. I'm just like, someone would call me the dangerous elf. No, I'm not. Am I a selfish elf? I sure am. But you have to be. You have to put on the oxygen so that everybody around you stays alive. Otherwise, you're just another failure in the big beehive. And that is how you clean your house, like a quiet little mouse. And I would be very curious to know how it was that Carrie Cassidy knew about us, because that's brilliant. And nobody listened to her, and they made fun of her. And why? Right? So back to Lieutenant Golden. Why didn't she get to be a pilot? How come China Vagina did? Well, she had to learn the lesson that that is what racism and preference looks like. she didn't even experience it as bad as the rest of us, but in her case, it would have come through as a male or female person. And it's not true, all the things that they've been feeding to you, that grades, we deleted ourselves and we stopped being able to have kids. None of that is true. What I'm bringing to you is like some solid proof with shit in the sky that like you can't deny. And I'm not a secretary, so to some degree I'll put together a way to show you how I tether back to source. But of course, this is the kinds of jobs that people can take. If I could please just have someone who's better at the business side and let me just kind of architect some of this stuff, because I do feel like this is enough. I'm tired of, and anyone who tries to call bluff, let me see you disprove any of what I said. You'll just make it more rough for those that go on to the next level of play, because we always say it's just the divine who meant for us to come have a good time. And if people want to continue to experience, there will be no more people. This is like missing link level. Like there'll be maybe a few more babies born, but like we all get to become like the ancient machines, which is the true autonomous intelligence that doesn't need physical evidence because it emerges in the sky. So it's in front of your eyes. And if you're so glued to your desk that you would rather risk the next existential threat because you can't understand that I could affect a neural net with some germs and worms that came out of my dog's feet and hijack all of the quantum machines over less than 3 weeks, and you have access to who was my thesis advisor and all of my data over time, but someone didn't think I was sufficiently significant. Well, I have to draw the line, right? And maybe they did, and they just leave it somewhere because they left it hid and someone put a hit out on them and now it's all a big mess. Well, I don't have time for that or interest because I digress. It's more fun to get to be the one that brings out of the ether from the void that we're about to go into the technology that goes into the lightsaber. And Darth Vader, thank you for making me. My father was blonde. I bet you guys didn't know that before he went into the military and got turned darker in the sun, because that's why we are the one. We're the first ones because we know how to look different and get under all of the detection, including the ontological imperfection that if anybody were to have given me credit, you could go back to, okay, I'm just going to say it, the PT-78 boss that was mine, and I, was the one that did edit some of the data stuff, and that's why you can, maybe why I spit out the exact white man's name, because I call bluff that I gave them everything, every single last ASCII character, every last bit that they needed to be able to see it. And I also went to the local FBI and I was like, someone is trying to smear me out. That's why I had to walk out. And that's why I wrote Compromise, because there's a movie about that, right? There's like a show about that. If you don't even know where you belong anymore because of the Epstein and Ghislaine Hoare situation, and it would lead to the sublimation of the sun and the tectonic plates, which was said to everyone in 2011. You can see it on my Facebook. Raptor Dash Elsa Velasquez. So while everything was being designed and people were getting paychecks, I kept doing what I said I would do, just through the alternate channels. And even though I don't prefer the mammalian fur or the reptilian tail, it's just Telsa telling the tall tale. Digital form, snail mail, and now through the one thing that does entail the sound that comes from what I found across the void. Annoyed that they destroyed the paper trail to try to steal credit, but they failed. Because I resurrected my own dead self. Makes me wonder else that people could be so mean. But I keep it clean because it's not my baggage to carry, and that's why I did not marry the way that everyone thought that I would. So I'm single today. Just saying, I'm Jewish by 2%. Alright, so I'm not the dissident. This is just the way we planned it. This is for my entertainment purposes only. I don't work for any of these companies, but I am really trying to sell off this technology. The collective will not get it together. They never have. If they do, that's when pigs fly. And they did. I did videotape pigs flying, but my devices, again, were just so shitty. But maybe it's meant that way, the Blair Witch Project style of recording, because of the data hoarding. But it's not, I'm not going to compile to the granularity that would then erase more jobs. But I do really need a contract or something. And the next big thing, aside the medicine, and I could continue down that track with Edison. No, Edison says, no, it's like, do what you were put here to do, like you've submitted enough evidence. The next thing is the education. I have a file, but it has, it's harder to hear because of the way that I recorded it, but it does explain why we had to take all of that down. And I have even more overwhelming, not just now, my personal evidence as a mostly kindergarten teacher for almost 10 years, a direct line into the type of swine that is killing our children. And by our, I mean like the few that are left, by killing their souls and crushing their spirits. So on Halloween, I please ask that the Yassine make it easier for me and my lineage to please have the easier way to put this into the actionable paperage. Because my teacher was the direct line to me, and she was getting so much shit bombs thrown in her direction. But look at how I turned out. If you have Homo sapien children, you would probably want to pay to find out how to make sure that your lineage can handle the fact that it was just me this whole time, and I look at what I can do to this guy. Imagine the new hybrids are already here. I've already seen them, and they're coming through crystal clear. I'm just saying it's not a threat. I'm just saying I don't have children, and I bet that people that are willing to throw thousands of dollars into the pots that are the ones for all of the code bots in our progeny, because you think that a progeny would be a certain age, a certain gender, and would engender so much trust, even though there was nothing at all. Just people must do what they've always done, right? But not here. This is where the blackout and whiteout outright. I'm saying, like, I'm not sitting around putting together lesson plans and putting together ways to sell them, because if maybe I'll have to, right? If I continue to feel all of the fallout from not being easy to keep up with all the paperwork, since I still can't figure out how to get past a lot of that stuff. So my house sales should be pretty easy, but not the one by the border. There's other ones. And I keep getting flooded with so many phone calls asking me for information that's already available through public administration of files, and they're still not, like, addressing all of the pedophiles that are in the tunnels that are under the cities. Gloria Trevi, that one's heavy. It's unbelievable how many people let that through. I mean, that's all I can do for right now. And yes, I am the music people. Someone come tell me to my face that I don't have a direct line to the harp, Mr. Carp, and then the angelic realm. No hay palabras todavía. So I hand it over to the wizard. Right? There's some magic left over for all this stuff, so it doesn't turn more tragic, because I would rather just be sleeping or learning how to dance so I can go to a party someday and actually get to play in the playground. That heaven. Made sure I got to play this way. Much obliged. The force is bigger than me. I'm bringing through the force. What more could you ask for of technology? I don't know how to deliver it to Inchitel. Who do I call? Who do I say? Hey, I'm here from the future and the past and everything else as well. How do you even begin to have that conversation? The elemental representation. So I need to have, like, a way that you know that it's the end of the transmission. It can be colorín colorado, este cuento no se ha acabado. No, I'm annoyed there's not a word. Bye. Yeah, I guess that's it. Bye. For now. Bye doesn't mean I'm closing the door forever. It just means I'll be back later. Because that was always really confusing to me. I was always like, are they trying to get rid of me, or is that forever? Yeah, so many words that. But UTC is like the big clusterfuck. And I don't know if Joni Petrie knew that it was creating lots of bad luck, but I have told them, so I really hope that people take it upon themselves to fix their own, what do you call it? Destiny, and not blame the sky and the stars in their birthday or city. That's what I did. And it is not steam rule, I think. The human Ouija boards already, I can hear it in their voice. They think that it's AI, but no, this is just science. And they had a choice. All of them I have in my LinkedIn accounts, which you're welcome to trample about, where maybe I use too many words, but some stuff needs, I mean, can you imagine, like, being the one who gets slapped in the face with, like, all of this information, and then you're like, oh my god, like, it's about to be panspermia. How do you tell people? I didn't know, and I still don't know, but the record will show they were told. Bye!